This is episode 195 of Super League Pod, and this is the one where Dave Cantrell gets told off for laughing at scared children. It's also the one where Sarah doesn't rate Joel Moon and no one rates Widnes's chances of survival. All that, and we take a detailed look forward to the upcoming Challenge Cup final with your predictions for the big game. Get strapped in for SLP. Hello listeners, it's episode 195 of your favourite rugby league podcast, the Super League Pod. This is your regular host Mark here, and I'm delighted that this week I'm joined for the first time in a while by our good friend Sarah Scoots McKenzie. Sarah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm a bit tired, but I'm good. How about you?
Do you want to explain why you're tired?
Well, I'm tired today because we spent the day at Doncaster Dome swimming and flume riding and all sorts, but we spent the last 10 days up in Edinburgh at the Fringe, which has been really good.
Oh, excellent. Well, let's not ruin what are probably going to be some high quality SLP recommends at the end of the show by going too much into that. Let's start with tradition really when we get you on the show, and it's to get an update on the Mighty Mighton under-9s side that your son Joshua plays for, that the SLP family sponsor. So how's things been going? Summer break, I assume. Are they still training and stuff like that?
No, they're still playing matches.
Oh.
They go through the summer and then finish at the end of September for the winter. But yeah, they're doing well actually. They've got a few new players, which has really helped. Just they're training with about 18 players now, so regularly got two teams
sides
out
against each other. Yeah.
Yeah, but also in the competitions, it means that they've got two teams out as well, which is good. Their attack's coming on nicely. They've got some nice ideas, and their defence is really improving as well. So yeah, it's really promising.
That's excellent. Has there anything else been going on that you want to tell us about since last time you were on before we...
Just on the subject of Mighton, I should be collecting all the key rings on Wednesday, so we'll be able to get those out in the post to people that have ordered those.
Okay, excellent. We do need to do some, classic on-air admin, but we need to get in touch with Carsten, don't we? Because he didn't order one, but he thinks he has.
Yeah, as far as I can't see any message anywhere from Carsten ordering one.
Right, well, I ordered two, so we might have a spare. We'll have to pick up with Carsten in a more appropriate setting than this. My week has not involved a great deal of stuff other than sat in front of the TV watching rugby league, other than being at work. Although on Saturday night I did get to meet up with one of our listeners, Bruiser, who runs a Super Brew competition that we do, the tipping competition. Yeah. I've not seen him for last time I saw him was at Coventry in the international double header a few years ago. So he was up our way. He went to the Pleasure Beach with his family on Saturday. So it was great to see Sean. So a little shout out to Sean, and yeah, we spoke about lots of rugby league topics. What he did show me is that a member of his family sadly passed away recently, but they had a Leeds Rhinos casket.
Oh right.
So yeah, so now he knows what he wants to be buried in. So he didn't know they were a thing. I didn't know this sort of thing was a thing, but I guess you can get anything made nowadays. But yeah, full on amber and blue. Coffin with the big Rhinos logo on it and everything. It was very exciting. So if we all have to go out at some point, don't we? And now we've all found our way to go out. I think is not in a Leeds one, but club appropriate coffins. There you go.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Right. So what we got on the show this week, Sarah? We've got limited news. You've thrown in a story late into the day that missed the rundown from the Championship. But mostly we're going to talk about Leeds Rhinos of the qualifiers in the news section. We've got some fan reviews from all the Super League Super 8s games. Then some of them are from real reviewers and some of them are from not so real reviewers, I would imagine. Some parody ones again that we're getting plenty of recently. London's finals day gets some coverage in the other results section. There was lots of finals days around the rugby league landscape this weekend just gone, but the London one was where we had some of the SLP contributors at the actual event, so we've got their views on how that went. Then it's going to be Challenge Cup final predictions, really. That's going to be a big part of this show, including a bunch of listener predictions to run through as well, Sarah. So that's what we've got coming up. Before we get to all that, I just want to give a quick shout out to our friends at This Week in League, who, without them showing how straightforward it was to swear and take the piss out of each other constantly talking about rugby league, there probably wouldn't have been a Super League pod. They had their 300th show this week, so that was fantastic. It was a great listen as well. Glenn, the original co-host, was back on the show to cover with stepdad Jay and with Nate, so that was really good. So congratulations to those guys. Yeah. And I just want to mention as well another Nate from Rugby League in America podcast. I did an SLP short with him over the weekend, building up to the national championship game in their grand final, effectively in the US Rugby League season. It's on Saturday, so same day as our Challenge Cup final. It's 7 p.m. their time, so I would think that's about, are they 5 hours, Jacksonville?
Yeah, I should think so.
Yeah, so it's 11 o'clock or midnight, something like that for us, depending on how the clocks work. But,
yeah, at least 5 hours, if not 6.
So we should be watching it when we get back. Everyone should be watching it when they get back up north from the Challenge Cup final. But we previewed that game and recapped most of what else had gone on in the season. So check out that SLP short. Wherever you're listening to this from, just go into the list of episodes and it'll be the last one before this one. And one other thing to touch on, Sarah, that I forgot to set you up for really, but I think there's a chance of a Mark Grant or a Sarah's soapbox off the back of this.
No, probably
so,
not.
Do you remember last week we had some stuff in, particularly around the Huddersfield's visit to St Helens, about fans getting at injured players?
Yeah.
So, Mark, who's a regular Huddersfield contributor, didn't send in the message that got us chatting about this, that we were a little bit confused, me and Langers last week. What a great job Langers did on his debut.
It was brilliant, yeah. I really enjoyed listening to last week's show.
The Hull curse continues, but...
Well, to be honest, you could just get Hull fans on from now till the end of the season and it'd fit in with the results that I'm sure are going to come. I'm
definitely going to get Hull fans on when we play Wigan next year. I think that's how we've got to organise. Anyway, on the topic of this fans jeering situation, Mark got in touch. He said, not sure if the guy who mentioned it got back to you, but Saints were really taking the piss with the booing. Every time a player went down, even from a bad challenge, there was no hesitation. Just booing and shouts along the lines of "get him off, the soft bastard," etc., etc. From the moment Mellor hit the ground, they booed him until he was off the pitch. Mellor obviously turned out later when... Oh no, LMS clocked Roach high and then elbowed his head on the ground. He goes off for a concussion check, takes the most direct route off the pitch. They boo him for taking too long. Lots of examples, unfortunately, but my favourite, and I think he means that in inverted commas, was the crusher tackle on McIntosh. They booed him before he even had the chance to milk it. He got up and carried on, and they kept booing him for time wasting, and then suddenly stopped when they realised the stoppage was only because Percival needed a new shirt. So, this has brought up a bit of chat over the last week or so. There's been a few columns about it and those sorts of things. Now, last time you were on, you got on your soapbox about players staying down unnecessarily and that sort of thing. Do you think this is a consequence of that? Like, this is what's going to happen? There's going to be a backlash when actual injuries happen?
It's a hard one, and interestingly, we obviously played Huddersfield this weekend just gone, and the last time I was on the pod, it was talking about this. It was after we had played Huddersfield, and I do think that they are a really, really bad team for doing this. I mean, we saw on Thursday every time there was a dropout signalled, one of them fell to the floor, rolling around in agony. I do have to say that the referee on Friday night actually was pretty good, because once there was a player lying there holding his head, and he walked straight up, patted his head and sent him off for a concussion test. And then a bit later on, there was a player rolling around holding his foot, and again, he just said, right, play on. You know, you're not impacting on play, we're playing on.
Yeah.
With that, the player leapt up and ran straight back into the defensive line. So I think it is hard, because obviously there's nothing worse than seeing fans jeering at players who are injured. And, you know, when there is a serious injury, it's the last thing you want to see. And you especially don't want to be hearing people, you know, bad-mouthing them and booing them and giving them grief. But I think generally fans can see whether it's a real injury or not.
Do you think that I kind of get a sense that there's a problem for fans actually doing that now? I think we've kind of got to a point where we're at the moment, which you quite rightly pointed out last time you were on, where there is so much of this going on. Maybe fans have kind of become blinded to the realities of the physical nature of the game, and have kind of just gone into a default position of, this is probably time wasting, this is probably bullshit tactics, this is all that sort of stuff that we don't want to see. And maybe if the referees are taking charge and switching it back to being the onus on the players to, you know, get into the defensive line if they can, and then only stay down when they're actually genuinely hurt, and get them off the field in those circumstances, that helps redress the balance, doesn't it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I do. It is really hard, and players have got to take responsibility for not lying around and, you know, feigning injury, because it's not what we want to see. And it does then sort of bring all this, you know, gamesmanship into question, and that's not what we want to be talking about.
No, exactly. It's neither, though, to be honest, is booing players when they're injured. I think it's one of those things that I've always felt quite proud of as a rugby league fan, that it didn't matter who the player was who'd got injured. You might sometimes cheer if a player you don't like takes a big hit, but then if that big hit turns out to be something serious, like for example when Terry Newton rearranged Sean Long's face and ruined his ability to close his eye for the rest of his life. But in that instance, at that time, when the hit goes in, you cheer. As a Wigan fan against the St Helens side, and particularly a player you don't want to see do well for them, sort of thing. But then when you realise that actually something serious might have gone on here, you are concerned, and you do clap the guy off, even if it is someone who inbuilt desire to not see do well.
I do think that is a great strength of the rugby league family as a whole. And as you say, you don't want this to like change. You don't want it to go the other way. And therefore, I do think that there's a responsibility on both parts. You know, the fans have to, there is nothing wrong with cheering when a player, first gets hit and goes down. And then the minute you realise actually he's not getting up, then that's when, you have the respect. You don't then start booing them. But on the other hand, the players have the responsibility not to be lying around milking when there's nothing wrong with them.
It's possibly that we've got to breaking point, hasn't it? There's been so much focus on the laying down, the delaying tactics, and all those sorts of things, that we're more aware of that now, and it's possibly, maybe the Saints fans as well had a lot of frustration built up from their treble falling apart the week before, and then them not doing so well as again at home in that game. And Huddersfield probably did milk a few occasions in that game when they had a lead, because St Helens players would milk occasions when they have a close lead in a close game too. Every team does it. It's about us resetting all parties, and it does sound like your referee. Who was the referee? Let's We'll have that written
It
down
was
somewhere in the
Hicks.
rundown, won't we?
It was Hicks.
Right, okay. So who's going to be the cup final referee? So hopefully he can take that sort of stuff into the cup final, and
Yeah.
we'll see genuine